Hey, and good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to the Weather Nerds YouTube channel. I'm your host, meteorologist Greg Majeski, your trusted no-nonsense weather man here to give you an update here for the upcoming week here on your November the 3rd, 2025. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you had a great weekend. And looks like we're in store for a fairly quiet weather pattern here for the week, except for maybe the West Coast. We do have a pretty substantial cold shot that's going to come down next week. By far the coldest of the season. You're going to see how much of the country is going to see temperatures below 32 degrees. It's definitely by far the biggest that we've seen so far. And both the American GFS and the European models are pretty much in agreement on that. Now, hey, if you're coming to this broadcast after the live update here, and you'd like to have a no-nonsense weather guy in your back pocket, you know, somebody's going to give it to you straight and not treat every storm as the storm of the century, please consider coming on board and being a subscriber. It's free, doesn't charge you anything. Just go and hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so you're alerted when we do these updates. We do them every Monday through Friday, typically around 8:30. I'm a little early today. Got something I got to take care of here this morning. But again, I appreciate you guys coming on board. So let's go ahead and break this down here a little bit here as we're going to look at the high and low yesterday. Glamis, California, out there in Southern California was 98 degrees. And we had Angel Fire, New Mexico was 12. Those are our high and lows across the country. Also Crested Butte, I guess that's Crested Butte there in Colorado. It was also 12 degrees yesterday as well. So pretty nippy out there in the west, but we're saying goodbye to a system here on the East Coast. This little system down here brought some nice little rains here. It's got some fog here. A lot of all that fog is going to burn off here a little bit later across the southeast a little bit. We got a storm system out here on the west coast as well. That's going to be a humdinger of a system. Let me get this thing out of the studio mode here and go back over here. There's the weather map here. You can kind of see this thing as we got pretty good rains here on the west coast. And we got this exiting rains here along the east coast and a lot of nothing here in the middle of the country. In fact, in the middle of the country, you guys are going to continue to see above normal temperatures here. And then, like I said, we got a pretty good cold shot. I'm going to show you here on this update to get you ready for here just a second. All right, so let's go take a look at the current watches and warnings. Again, we got some fog here across the southeast. Kind of saw that with some of the images coming up here with some of this fog. This will burn off as we get some of that sun get up higher in the sky. A little windy out here on the west coast. Seeing some wind advisories out here, some high wind advisories as well. Dealing with that, and a little bit along the Great Lakes as dealing with some windy conditions there too. All right, let's talk about some of this rain here on the East Coast up near Virginia Beach. Getting some pretty good rains there this morning. Going up towards the Chesapeake Bay, Newport News. A little wet, a little damp up there for folks heading on and work for this morning. Not looking too bad there. And as far as the tropics are concerned, guess what? We got nothing to track. First time in a long time we don't have anything to talk out there. In fact, right now the Hurricane Center has nothing projected over the next 7 days. So we got about, 27 more days left in hurricane season 2025, and hopefully Melissa was our last storm to have to deal with as they continue recovery efforts down into Jamaica. Now, West Coast, you guys are going to be dealing with some pretty heavy rains coming up here in the next few days, okay? So we do have a couple of excessive rain days here. This is not for today. This is for tomorrow. Again, Southern Oregon, California looking in there, and that'll continue in the same general area there going in toward your Wednesday as well. So just a couple of areas there. You also may see a few rumbles of thunder out there. No real organized severe weather here for the next week. I know the storm chasers out there going, starting to go with withdrawal. But right now we're looking pretty quiet on that front. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the model data here. Got a lot to talk about here on the model data, kind of get you in here real quick. So we're going to be looking at right now at the 3 kilometer NAM here going the 6Z run. As we're kind of chain, again, the West Coast is where all the action is. We do have a piece of energy that's coming in over the Great Lakes. Here we got that system on the East Coast as well here going in for today. So this will quickly kind of move on out of here. And then we got another system that's going to drop down out of this one. Very active weather here on the West Coast, so from Washington State down into Northern California with some wet weather down there. And that's where the heaviest rain is going to be. But a lot of the middle, the west, the middle of the country, southeast, looking pretty quiet. So it's predominantly just the northeast as well as the Pacific Northwest that's going to be seeing the bulk of the action here this week. Shows up very nicely here on the rainfall estimate out here. I mean, look where all the rain is falling. It is generally out on the West Coast, going from Washington State to Northern California. Northern California especially, a lot of heavy rains there. Rains across the Northeast and right along the Mid-Atlantic, but a lot of the country here through the middle of the week looking pretty dry here. Again, this is a 60-hour look here. All right. Now, As far as temperatures are concerned, again, we're going to see things kind of cool in the east, but they're going to start modifying here a little bit. We're going to definitely see things kind of rebounding a little bit. I want this loop all the way through here. I'm going to stop it here a little bit here as we go through the day. So this is this morning. Let's go get this out to this afternoon, around 3 or 4 o'clock. So we got temperatures here, again, warming up here in the 60s here in Nebraska. Not bad by early November standards, that's for sure. 70s across Texas, southeast kind of cool, northeast looking kind of cool. A little chilly in the Pacific Northwest. Look, check that out. Got some below freezing temperatures there in the blue. And that's one thing you're going to notice is a lot blue when I look at the long range for next week. And then we go in for tonight. Again, not overly cold across most of the country here as we go toward tomorrow morning. Got some freezing temperatures here across Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, seeing some temperatures around 32 degrees and across the Intermountain. But again, nothing too bad out there. And then for your Tuesday afternoon, going for your tomorrow afternoon, we'll get even warmer out here into areas here. Look at it, 70s into South Dakota again. And Nebraska at the foothills. So it's very, very warm. And Denver is going to set a stretch for the longest wait for a start of snows in the season. I think they're going to break that. I believe it was this week, I believe. Anyway, they're looking at a snow drought, to say that. A little cool in the Pacific, in the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest here going for this upcoming week. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about the weather pattern here. We're looking at the 500 millibar height anomaly, all right? So what we're going to talk about is this big dump we're going to see of some cold air coming down across the east here as we go into early next week. So this week, what we're dealing with is a fairly flat zonal flow. That's going out toward Tuesday. So you got the jet stream kind of doing like this. You see this high down in here. So we've got high pressure down here. So this means we're in store for some fairly mild weather across the south here going to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But it's going to be short-lived, all right? You got this piece of energy that's going to ride up out of Canada and then drop south here going into this upcoming weekend. There's that piece, and then it's going to rotate right down. So under this configuration, the jet stream's going way up there to the north and grabbing all the way down south. So that's going to bring in some nice cold core with this. By far the coldest temperatures of the season. We're going to see a lot of folks are going to see 32 degrees or below temperatures here in these. Some folks have been a little late getting their first freezes of the season. They're going to see that going into next week. Now, the good news is this is hit and run. It's going to move right back out, and then we warm right back up there across the eastern two-thirds. And then we got another little disturbance rolling in out here. This one needs to be watched toward the middle of the month. That one, depending on how warm it is out ahead of it, these storms like this can sometimes set off severe weather. We're in that second severe weather mode here. We'll have to watch that. It just really kind of depends on how warm it is out ahead of that cutoff low as it kind of swings across the south. All right, so it looks like we warm up in the east and colder here in the west, long range beyond the 17. We'll see how it works out because the west's been staying above normal here for a while now. I do expect we'll see a change here soon. So here we go with our 10-day look here as we're going to be looking at, again, very active out on the west coast. We've got a couple of weaker systems here in the east that drop out. We got this one going across the northeast going into Wednesday. You see that right there. Look, leaving some snows there across portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, a little bit higher elevations. This pulls on out. Then there's a west coast system on Thursday. See another system out there, kind of a river, the atmospheric river. You hear that term thrown around a lot. It's coming out to the Pacific Northwest. And then we got this weak system here coming in on Friday, coming across the Great Lakes and coming across portions of the Midwest here on Friday. This quickly moves on off the northeast. And then we got to watch this cold dump coming on down. This is that system here. Here's the freezing line right through here. See where I'm kind of highlighting that with a hand? That is our freezing line. This thing's going to really dump down some cold air coming behind this system. So this one's going to really set things up for some cold weather, diving down here, coming into the south and in the eastern third of the United States. So this will be going into early next week, Sunday. This is going to clear on out, and it really kind of dumps. So that freezing line, we call the freezing line 850 line, is way down here to the south. So we got some very cold air. Probably going to get some lake effect snows that we kick in up there as well for the really for the first time this season. It really, this is a true cold enough air mass to get a good lake effect going into next week. And then this hits and runs though. It gets for Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be pretty cold there for a couple days, and then it moves on out and warms back up again. All right. So let's talk about this. I want to go show you I want to go switch you over to the temperature anomaly here. We're going to track this a little bit better for you. Again, watch that timestamp there in the upper right-hand corner. This is on Saturday, right? All right, so this cools on now. Look how much of the country here is going to be looking at below normal temperatures here going in toward Monday. So a lot of the country here going to see a big substantial cool down here. Obviously very warm out here in the west. So a big cool down here. And if this is holding true, the Climate Prediction Center outlook might change a little bit here for today. But notice what happens. This thing moves on. It goes to the East Coast and quickly moves on out. So again, you see kind of a warm up there across the east as we go on out, and it kind of chills out in the west. So that's what we're looking at right now. But that's going to be the big story for next week. From Monday and Tuesday is a really, really cold air mass here across the eastern, I'd say half of the United States. Going to see a nice little chill down here for next week. All right, so let's go look at that climate outlook here again. This is, I think, going to change today because when you look here, doesn't really show a lot of blue here. This is for that period. This is from the 8th to the 12th. So you see a little bit here across the northeast, but very warm out here in the west. So I suspect we'll see a little bit of a change on this today. It is a quick hit and run. It's only for a couple days, and then it should warm back up again. And then you notice here from the 10th to the 16th, most of the country, again, above normal. This seems to be the big theme here this fall, since we're in La Nina right now. And then dry conditions here across a big portion of the country here. This will not help the drought conditions except for the areas of the Pacific Northwest and, of course, the Northeast. Seems where the weather patterns have been the most active. And then going to the 8th to the 14th, and we trim away a little bit of that brown, that dry conditions there, except standing pretty wet out there in the west. Of course, that means a lot more mountain snows. And speaking of mountain snows, I needed to show that real quick. I mean, a couple things I did want to point out to you guys real quick there. Again, going out here from the next 10 days, again, we were talking about the lake effect snows coming on. Let me show you this real quick. Here we go. Go back here. There you go. And you see the snows here across the northeast and across portions of Ohio, Pennsylvania. This is clearly your lake effect blowing over the lakes here. Seeing some pretty good snows out here going into next week. And then, of course, the areas of the Pacific Northwest Intermountain region seeing some snows. Although the snow levels are not very, very high, very low here across California. With all that precipitation they're getting, it's really not showing a lot as far as snowfall out there. And then the last thing I do want to point out real quick, I do want to show this here. This is a snapshot here of the temperatures. I wanted to show y'all how much of the country is going to be looking at temperatures below 32 degrees. See all the blue in here? This is temperatures that are below. We haven't seen anything like this remotely this much. So we got a lot of 20s up here, up in the high plains, and even coming down in toward Missouri. We haven't seen anything remotely this as far as the depth of the cold air so far this season. We've had it here and there, but not a true Arctic air mass, a good cold air mass that's going to kind of settle in across the area. So this will be for Monday, and it'll continue into Tuesday as well. So here's Tuesday morning. Again, a lot of the eastern third of the United States here looking pretty chilly. Some teens into Washington and to the northeast as well. So we got a couple of really cold mornings, and then it's going to spit it on right back out of here and be done with it again. So anyway, that's what we're looking at for this week here. A fairly quiet week, except for the West Coast and the Northeast. Got a couple areas there. Fairly mild across a big portion of the country, but we do have that big cold air mass, which we will go ahead and plot. We'll be tracking it, and again, we'll see if it changes a lot as we go into early next week. Again, appreciate you guys checking out the channel here for today, and we got Tyler out there this morning. Good morning, Tyler. Good to see you. And I know I'm a little early, so I know a couple of my regulars are going to be, hey, you already did your live. I'm sorry. So if you guys come to this afterwards, Mick, and you know who you guys are out there, I appreciate you guys checking us out. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. I promise tomorrow morning I'll be back on my normal time at 8:30. All right.